Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Sustainability, Infrastructure, and Development Committee for May 6, 2025. I will now call on Chris Ferreso, Committee Clerk, to conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Chair. Regional Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Councillor Erb. Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Present.
Councillor Hunick. Chair James.
Present.
Councillor Liggett.
Present.
Councillor McCabe.
Present.
Councillor Novak. Councillor Rodriguez.
Present.
Councillor Salonen. Councillor Shantz.
Present.
We have regrets from Councillor Urbanovich and Councillor Wolf.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now begin with acknowledging that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Chinanton, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We recognize their enduring presence on this land and continued presence, and also want to take a moment to recognize yesterday, May 5th, as Missing Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls and Two-Spirit, and the ongoing recognition and need to raise awareness for missing Indigenous peoples within this country that continue to be stolen. I will now move on to item 3, the declarations of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I would now like to entertain a motion to reconvene into open session. Do I have a mover? Councillor Foxton, Councillor Nowak. You'll be prompted in e-scribe. Councillor McCabe, are you? Okay, and that carries. We will now proceed with delegations as listed on the agenda. I would like to remind all delegations of some guidelines for participation. For those who are joining us in person, please proceed to the podium when you are called to speak. Please press the button on the base of the microphone. If the light is green, then the microphone is on. For those joining us electronically, please leave your video camera turned off and your microphone audio muted until you are called upon to speak, and you will have 5 minutes. For anyone who registered after the due date, you will have 3 minutes. If you conduct yourself in any of the following manners, it will result in immediate removal from the meeting, interrupting councillors, staff, or other delegations, derogatory statements about councillors, staff, or others, turning your camera on or on at inappropriate times, and any hate speech or defamatory comments. I will now call on the first delegation, Jamie Miller. Thank you. You have 5 minutes, Jamie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having the opportunity to speak here today. Jamie Miller. I live right in the Ainslie Street extension in the middle of all the traffic. So I have a few videos to show. I hope they will go up. These videos, they took me two and a half minutes.
Jamie, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you.
Sorry.
We did get the videos late, so we're going to share those with council.
Okay.
Following, if you could just speak to your what you wanted to delegate on today in the presentation. Thank you.
So anyway, the videos there. I'll just give you a quick explanation. One is my security camera at the back of my house. It actually points up towards the Ainslie Street, and it when council sees that, you'll see that every 2-3 minutes a truck passes. And then we have like anything from gravel trucks to large double trucks, all kinds of things like that. So anyway, council will be able to see that. So the next steps, what we expect, if you can change the slide, recognize that there's a truck traffic problem. Like we do. A solution is required regardless of any barriers we identify. There still is a problem, and it must be addressed. Don't forget about us. So too often when there's a problem, without an immediate solution is pushed to the side. I'd like to commend Doug Craig, our regional reps, Doug Spooner and our regional reps, Doug Craig and Pam Wolf, for sticking with us for many other meetings we've been at to state our case. Next slide, please. We believe, us residents that live there, next steps and what we expect, safety is our big one. A solution is needed soon before an accident happens because it's very dangerous there with the trucks coming by at quite a speed. They're not able to stop. There's many pedestrians and so on. So as in the study, there's more than 500 trucks per day driving along there. There's bike lanes, school buses, children, pets, seniors, pedestrians, and it's inappropriate for large trucks. We need to, what needs to happen is a solution. Even though we might not be able to find one at this point, it still needs to be researched. And the residents of Cambridge, particularly our area, needs to be put first over the inconvenience of trucking companies. That's what we believe. Next slide, please. The noise and air pollution is really bad. If any of you can imagine, even at 500 trucks a day passing our house, just spewing out smoke and dirt and exhaust, it's not good. And the noise pollution is really bad. When we're sitting in our front yard, we can't even have a conversation because, as I said earlier, every 2 minutes a truck comes by. So try and do a phone call, an email, anything like that, it doesn't happen. And next slide, please. We are continually faced by great opportunities, brilliantly disguised by insoluble problems. Lee Lakota. Innovation for positive change. Don't forget about us. Like, the problem, it seems to be that because there's not an immediate solution, that it seems to get put to the side, which isn't acceptable for us residents. And there was one in the report that was put out. There was one statement here on page 2. It says, the Footbridge Road is load-restricted township of North Dumfries, road passing through residential areas and would be inappropriate route for large trucks. Well, first of all, that footbridge is only load-restricted for 2 months of the year. So that is not correct there. And it says here, it would be inappropriate for large trucks. Well, what makes Ainsley Street and all up Cedar Street, which is 97, what makes it not appropriate for the trucks to drive up those areas? Same people, same lives, same trying to have peaceful, quiet lives. We have trucks passing through constantly, 24/7. I have trucks passing my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's just nonstop. And I believe that it's not something that we should have to live through. I think there needs to be a solution. It needs to be done as quick as possible. And I think that the trucking companies need to be held accountable, and there has to be something that is done reasonably quick so that we can have our good quality of lives. Thank you.
Thank you. I am seeing no questions from councilors, so thank you very much. Oh, Councilor Craig? Okay, go ahead, Councilor Craig.
If I may, with Mr. Miller being here, to Mr. Spooner, if I could. Mr. Miller is concerned about the 500 trucks. I've been out there. Councillor Wolf has also been out there with me. What would be the percentage that would be trucks that shouldn't be going up Ainsley? Because we do have some that have to go. Can you give us an estimation? I'm not putting you on the spot or anything.
Oh, me, sir?
No, Mr. Spooner.
Sorry.
Okay. Through you, Chair. So I have the numbers in front of me on the reduction that we've achieved, which was roughly 60% across the board. I don't have a breakdown of the number that should be traveling up Ainsley. I'm happy to get that for you, Councillor. I don't have that in front of me.
Well, I'm wondering if I may, Madam Chair, go back through to Mr. Spooner. Would further enforcement be part of the issue of helping to alleviate the problems, or should we be looking at a complete redesign of that area in terms of moving truck traffic somehow, somewhere.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, I think you're onto something here, and we've talked about the kind of spectrum of driver behavior, Councillor, before, and if we start at behavioral, of which this program that we've put in place is, these are signs that remind people that their behavior should change. The next in that spectrum is enforcement, and so we have worked with WRPS for a few blitzes in this corridor and have been effective in doing so. And a reminder that the third on that spectrum would be design, and so if there were design changes we could make to the road, that would be the most effective. But yes, one of the solutions in front of us is enforcement, and happy to continue to work on that if that's
All right,
a request.
I would appreciate it, Madam Chair, enforcement could be accelerated and in terms of this issue. And Mr. Miller and residents in that area to be informed about what we're doing as we move along. I think that's really important. I can certainly sympathize from what Mr. Miller is saying. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I believe the Cambridge Truck Diversion Project is coming up in one of our further reports, so there'll be discussion there. Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Liggett, sorry, don't go anywhere just yet. Councillor Liggett.
Sorry.
It's not actually a question. I just want to say I was out there with Mr. Spooner one day, and it's amazing the sounds, the traffic. I wouldn't want to live there. I don't think anybody should have to live next to this. And I remember when we were doing the truck diversion through the downtown and voted on it, I forewarned about this. I said, by leaving this one small section it's about a block, a long city
That's
block.
correct. Yeah.
Leaving that one block downtown with trucks was going to create this problem. And that's exactly what has happened. These people, the sounds, the pollution, everything they have to live through shouldn't happen to anybody in this region. We should be trying to fix this situation for these people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. That's all we have from council. Thank you for coming in. Next, I have Tajinder Manku. And you are virtual. Oh, not here. Okay, so we will move to the next delegation. Joe Salimi, Director, it's online. Okay, and you have a presentation. You have 5 minutes. Thank you, Joe.
So much. I don't have a fancy slide deck or anything, but rather a statement, and want to offer my support through Landscape Ontario members and our board of directors in support of the tabled salt pollution motion. Again, thank you for the opportunity and allowing me to be able to talk to you about what we're going through as an industry with private snow and ice contractors. Landscape Ontario is the leading, is the province's leading horticultural trades association, and that includes snow and ice management. And we ask ourselves, and we do internally, why do we represent private snow and ice contractors? And it's really because no one else does. Also, a significant amount of our members in the winter months also engage in snow and ice management operations. So, but we do represent the entire value chain of landscape horticulture in Ontario. The snow and ice management sector in Ontario comprises of nearly 8,000 small businesses, including more than 300 here in the region of Waterloo. We provide an essential public service ensuring people can travel safely to work, school, and access emergency services. Private snow and ice contractors face a direct conflict between the professional objectives of safety and environmental protection, and it's exacerbated by a flawed insurance and liability system that requires urgent reform. The liability concerns pressure contractors to use way more road salt than they need to, and it's because of the liability that's placed on their shoulders and an expectation from property owners and managers to have clear and dry pavement following a snow event. The excessive legal responsibility in increasing precautionary demands for oversalting, it simultaneously has encouraged insurance costs to soar, driving many of the owners of private snow and ice contractor businesses out of the market, and it caused a dwindling number of insurers, and which has also pushed businesses out of the industry. It's caused job losses and service shortages. Without legislative reform, many municipalities and regions risk a critical lack of ice management services next winter. We can achieve safer conditions and improve and reduce the impact of road salt to our by implementing standards and best management practices, a more balanced distribution of liability between contractors and property owners would reduce insurance costs and attract more people to our sector. Environment Canada classifies salt as a hazardous substance, yet it permits its use on roads and parking lots and walkways. Excessive road salt has a significant negative environmental consequence. High chloride levels contaminate water resources, harm aquatic life, damage soil and vegetation, and degrade infrastructure. Here we are as a sector that produces and builds and maintains beautiful, environmentally sustainable green spaces in the warm months, and then undoes it all by using way more salt than we need to in the cold months. It all stems from a system lacking proper site-specific risk analysis and clear service level policies. Contractors can't always guarantee clear and dry pavement due to many unpredictable factors in weather and unresolved site design and drainage issues. A regulated system, and yes, we are asking for regulation, it's not often that an industry does, that would identify hazards and fairly balance risk between property owners and contractors. We've seen this past season significant snow events that have underscored a critical need for sufficient numbers of trained snow removal contractors. The increased snowfall combined with oversalting even led to a widespread road salt shortage in February. Addressing salt-related environmental damages requires more than just mandating lower salt use on public and private areas. Private parking lots and roadways are major contributors, necessitating shared responsibility across all parties. Landscape Ontario has developed professional training to achieve optimal balance between safety and environmental protection and salt use. We collaborate with the Snow and Ice Management Association in the United States and work very closely with the Smart About Salt Council, whose data that their training is predicated
Joe,
on.
sorry to interrupt. You're just at time if you want to wrap up, and we have some questions from councillors.
Thank you. I'll just finish by saying we support the motion that's tabled and welcome any questions.
Perfect. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, through you, Chair, and thank you, Joe, for joining us. I know you're interrupting a conference or something like that you're at, so I appreciate you making time to join us and to share particularly the industry's perspective, because I think it's really important to hear, particularly from the the small business owners who do this kind of work and do it, sometimes on contract by municipalities. So I appreciate your time here. My question is, could you just provide specifically, what kind of advocacy you've been doing and, how you think this motion can support what you're doing from an advocacy perspective?
Thank you for that question, and I appreciate the opportunity through you, Chair. We've been working with provincial government for the last 4 years on legislative reform that would equalize the liability between private snow and ice contractors and property owners and managers. What we're recommending to the province is that we want to require all private snow and ice contractors to go through training and become accredited so that they have a standard level of professionalism and service while developing a standard of practice for snow and ice management contractors, which does not exist. And by doing so and completing the work as presented in the contract and agreed upon, should be held harmless from liability once their work has been completed and demonstrated and able to be demonstrated. So we've been working with provincial government on that for the last 4 years. We've been able to, through a private member's bill, reduce the statute of limitations for slip and fall claims from 2 years to 60 days. And that has helped a little bit. But there is a massive loophole in that piece of legislation that does not require the private snow and ice contractor to be notified. It just requires the property owner or manager to be notified of the slip and fall. So we have a lot of work to do, and by passing a motion like this puts additional pressure on the provincial government to make movement and move forward with improving the liability structure between private snow and ice contractors and property owners and managers.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Craig.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate your comments. And I think my comments are somewhat a little one-off, but you talk about salt, the environment, and it was mentioned to me years ago about the effects of windshield wiper fluid that all cars and trucks spew all over the place that are toxic. Do you or your group ever consider that in terms of looking at that or surveying what the effects may be?
Great question, and thank you for that. Through you, Chair. That is not something that we've ever even considered, I'll be honest, to take a look at or study, being that I think that it's much more of a broader issue. And I agree, I'm sure that probably has an impact on our environment and waterways. I know personally the amount that I drive, especially in the winter, how much windshield washer fluid that I use. But as an industry that's specifically focused on private snow and ice contractors, we've been laser focused on our salt use.
Well, fair enough, sir. Thank you very much for your delegation, okay?
Thank you. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you to the chair and thank you to the delegation for speaking. I look forward to supporting the motion about salt management today. I just have a question with respect to your insights and expertise, because what I have seen in situations where less salt is used, and the alternative is to pack snow down on the sidewalks, which makes it impassable for folks using wheelchairs or strollers or walkers or such things. So I'm wondering if you have any insight into what this will do for accessibility, and or if the accreditation that you speak of will involve some kind of accessibility training as well.
Thank you for that question, through you, Chair. Packing snow on a public or well-trafficked walkway or passageway is not a best practice in the snow and ice sector. And the training that will be provided, and we are doing that, industry is currently doing that in a voluntary basis now. That is not something that we promote or would ever. Accessibility is important, and by using the right amount of salt, as data shows through the Smart About Salt Council, when ground temperatures are monitored compared with precipitation and air temperature, we know exactly the right amount of salt to use to get clear pavement. Okay. It's the added liability pressures that cause the contractors to put down excessive salt in comparison. And Councillor, that could even be an accessibility issue by the excessive use of salt.
Yeah, it's broken many motors. I thank you. I really appreciate your expertise and your mindfulness toward this. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I know the region and most of the municipalities take excessive salt very seriously, and we have a lot of laws and bylaws in place to regulate it, as well as all the ones that we hire. The only thing I was really concerned about is you're wishing to eliminate or shorten the liability. And I'll tell you why. There's a notice that goes around to a lot of parents when your children are going to go on a school trip, and they ask you to sign the document saying you're going to waive any liability. And I always wrote on that, if you are liable and cause harm to my children, I will charge you, I will take you to court. And then I would date it and sign it. But I'd make sure I had that clause. You're never going to get rid of a liability because people have a right to ensure safety, and they have a right to hold accountable. And sometimes liability is the way we hold people accountable. So I don't think you're ever going to waive that, or you won't get as much backing because that's in there. Because I believe when you waive the right to lay the liability on someone, you're giving up your rights, and you're also allowing people to be negligent. It's saying you can be negligent and I won't charge you. So that's the only real concern I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Joe. That's all the questions we have for you. Thank you for taking the time and for your advocacy. Next, I will move on to Claire Malcolmson. I think you were joining us virtually. Hello, Claire. You have 5 minutes. I don't know if there's a presentation we need to put up on the screen. Just let us know.
There is a presentation. There you go. Thanks so much. Thank you very much for having me today. My name is Claire Malcolmson, and I'm the Executive Director of the Simcoe Coalition. Also talking about the road salts motion. And next slide, please. I'm part of the Ontario Salt Pollution Coalition. This is groups from Niagara to Sudbury that have followed really decades of advocacy for dealing with salt pollution because we're really concerned about the impacts to water. And the initiative that Joe Salemi and Landscape Ontario have just described to you is the one that we discovered was underway in 2023, and we wanted to support this as a way to take some concrete action for water quality in Southern Ontario, and also to advance another idea that we think is really important, which is, in addition to looking at this limited liability regime, which Joe just described, to also to get the province to create and fund an expert stakeholder advisory committee to advise the province and municipalities on the best courses of action to protect freshwater ecosystems and drinking water from the impacts of salt pollution. And so this is, our ask is more or less the motion that you have before you today. And so, of course, we support that motion as well. Next slide. So the reason that we are talking to municipalities in Ontario versus talking to the federal government is that municipal leaders like yourselves are the closest form of government to people and their concerns. And we know that clean water is really an important priority for residents in Southern Ontario. We are proud that we can turn on our taps and drink our clean drinking water, but that won't be the case everywhere if we don't protect it from salt pollution. In Ontario, we really spread a disproportionate amount of salt compared to the rest of Canada. Speaking from a Lake Simcoe perspective, those municipalities that have shoreline on Lake Simcoe, I mean, that's why a lot of people want to live around Lake Simcoe, is to use the lake. And I assume that they want to use a clean lake. So we're really trying to get the support of municipalities to get this over the line. This is a huge problem. So since the 1960s to approximately now, chloride concentrations have doubled. This is looking at 400 streams. This is Ontario Government Ministry of Environment data. And we also know that in Ontario, we are growing the road network enormously, or that's what the current government would like to do. And that is absolutely going to add more salt to the environment. So we have to get ahead of this, or we will have a huge expensive problems to deal with down the road. Next slide. This, don't just take it from me, the source protection committees of Credit Valley, Toronto and Region, and Central Lake Ontario just last year have made very clear and very stark that what we're doing is not working. It's not expected that current salting policies will have a significant impact in reduction of salt trends. Risk management plans do not appear to be having the desired effect and take a great deal of municipal resources. With all due respect to all of those who work on those plans and implement them, this is why we're asking municipalities to help us ask the government to do more. These are the experts in water protection, and so I think we need to take their recommendations seriously. And so their final point there is that, again, they are supporting limited liability as one solution that we think has some legs. Next slide. I'll just talk about one other thing. It's okay. Go ahead. And next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So, Joe, I usually do a bunch of your stuff. You can go to the next slide as well. I just want to show the ecological piece here in my 28 seconds remaining. So the bottom, you can see a little triangle right after 100. That is the level at which the Canadian government has said aquatic life would be protected. And then the chart shows all these different types of species. So we're talking about fish, amphibian, invertebrate, and plant species. Next slide shows that in Muskoka, zooplankton are dying at much lower levels than that. And so this must be examined from an ecological point of view as well. Because really what we're doing to the water, we are doing to ourselves. And we really need to protect ourselves and future generations from an expensive problem we can fix today. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. We do have a question from Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the very informative delegation. I know there is a little bit of concern around the table around the limited liability piece and what that does to individual rights if accidents were to happen. And so in the opinion of the delegate, if we were to remove the limited liability piece, would the motion still carry water or salt, as it were?
Nice pun. Well, I do hear your concerns. I think it's an important piece to consider, and it is not something that we've spent a lot of time considering as well. So I would actually really invite, if there's somebody in your network that we might be able to speak to that could advise a little bit on this. Maybe Landscape Ontario and the Government of Ontario would be interested in this as well. I think it's important for us to remember that, rights, I think, extend beyond what we can really see and feel and touch and taste right now. So I'm also thinking about the rights of nature, of fish, and of people and future generations. When we're talking about what is the kind of thing that we could do to improve the state of the environment, and while also addressing a cost issue that Joe has explained. So, I would prefer to keep the limited liability piece in there because the Government of Ontario has not done really much of anything on the environment. It's been a really tough time the last number of years for environmentalists in Ontario and for the environment itself. And this is actually one of the only things that I actually think that the province of Ontario might act on. And so, to your point, or maybe if you want to add something to the motion, like while considering and addressing accessibility issues, that might be something to add to the motion while keeping the limited liability piece in there. I hope that helps.
Thank you. I look forward to supporting the motion as it stands. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Claire, for making time to join us this afternoon, and I appreciate the detailed information that you provided. You mentioned in your presentation that the programs that municipalities are doing aren't working. Were you referring to the Smart About Salt campaigns, or which programs were you referring to? And what about it isn't working?
Yeah, so this is from the source protection committees who do look at risk plans. So where we have, so the Source Water Protection Act in Ontario protects our drinking water sources from contaminants. And so the contaminants differ in the area, and in some places, Georgetown and Orangeville in particular, salt is a really big contaminant. So their risk management plan would speak specifically to salt a lot. And for example, in Barrie on Lake Simcoe, There are places around their drinking water intakes where there are limitations on how much you can salt. And so the point about what is not working means it's not bringing our salt levels down. Our salt levels continue to climb. So if all of this work is meant to help protect the environment, it's not, right? Like, because we keep expanding the road network. So if we're going to keep expanding the road network and keep putting salt on the roads and not change anything, then we will definitely contaminate many freshwater bodies. And the problem with that is, of course, that if you kill the bottom of the food chain, you're also killing the food source at the top of the food chain. So it's devastating for fishing, recreation, and general sustainability.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it underscores the need to have legislation or regulation like this that's passed so that we can actually reduce the amount of salt. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. There are no questions, so thank you for taking the time to delegate today. I will now move on to the consent agenda. I would like to pull item 7.1.1 from the agenda. Is there any other agenda items? Councillor Salonen?
I just have a question on 7.2.2.
Okay. Councillor McCabe?
I would like to, I have some questions about 7.2.1.
7.2.1. Okay, that is the waste water treatment. Okay, so, okay, all right, that's the one I pulled. So, okay, so 7.1.1, Commissioner Regier, if you want to speak to, I know, hold on, I'm getting ahead of myself. Is there anyone to move and second the rest of the consent agenda? So we're pulling 7.1.1, 7.1.2, 7.2.1. Councillor Foxton, Councillor Craig, you'll second?
Yeah, so it's 7.1.1.
Yeah. 7.2.2. Okay, all right. So 7.1.1, 7.2.1, and 7.2.2. And Councillor Foxton, you will move the rest of the consent agenda. Councillor Craig, you will second that. Okay. All right. So 7.1.1. Commissioner. Oh, okay. Still have to vote. Okay. Okay. Councillor Wolf. Councillor Liggett. Okay.
In favor.
Okay. All right, that carries. Okay. On to Rod. If you could just speak briefly on the population and household estimates report.
Thank you, Chair James. And we do have staff from GDS up there in the audience to bring any technical information to the table for Council's consideration. So we have three information reports that are really a package for Council. This is part of an annual cycle of reporting on the nature of growth in the region of Waterloo over the previous year. The data that we've assembled here goes up to the end of 2024. The population estimates, the building permit estimates for 2024, and the development application activities really describe an entire process of both growing and accommodating our growth in the region of Waterloo over the previous 12-month period. So the region did grow over the course of 2024. It did not grow as fast as it had in 2023 by a significant margin, and that's largely attributed to the reduction in the international student population that councillors will recall and the community will recall significant changes in federal policy during 2024. So we did see a growth of the natural population growth of the region that is non-student related growth of about 10,000 people over the course of the year. The process, the rate of growth does continue to keep the region on track for hitting a population of 1 million by 2051. So you do see these kinds of fluctuations in annual population, building permit estimates, and so on and so forth. But the longer term trend is really what we're needing to pay attention to here. We did see a reduction in building activity, and particularly building permit activity in 2024 as well, and development applications have changed, but less so than the previous two reports. And I'm not sure if Daniel DeFields or Ryan up there would like to add any additional information, or just take questions.
I just have one question for clarification, and it is around the non-residential builds. Can you just clarify what those would consist of? Is it institutions? Because there was significant growth in that. Just clarify.
Thank you for the question. The non-residential sector is comprised of the three components.
Your mic is...
Oh, it's on. Is that better? Just had to bring it down. So our non-residential sector is comprised of three components: institutional, retail, commercial, and then industrial. This year, non-residential activity was largely driven by institutional. We saw the rec center in southeast Cambridge combined with the library. There was a 2- or 3-story school that was constructed in Kitchener, as well as the permit for the University of Waterloo residence building that we're seeing construction of now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Liggett?
The report talks about the census, but it doesn't say what census it is. I have no idea if this is a regional one, a federal one. And the reason I ask is because we've just changed our signs based on the Canada data census, and we are at a 163, yet this says 153. So where is the difference coming from?
So the population report uses the 2021 census, federal census as a base. We then add building permit activity and the population that's attributed from that building activity, as well as growth in student enrollments. The road signs reflect a 4-year time period. So we try to estimate what our population will be over that 4-year time period, and those are what is posted there.
Sorry, it was very difficult to hear you. So are you saying that this is out of date already? Is that what you just said?
I wouldn't say it's out of date. What we attempt to do is estimate the population, the average population over a 4-year period. So we've just updated the signs, and those signs will be in place for about 4 years, in which point we will then update them again based on the best available information we have at that time.
Okay, so still kind of confused on how it is that the Canada census puts us at 10,000 people more than this does. How does that happen?
Rod, do you want to?
Yeah, let me take a shot at that, Ryan, and if I'm off base here, please correct me. So I think what Ryan was saying is that the projections that the road signs are based on a projection, and the projection is what was forecast to be correct at the end of 2025. In other words, because population is continuously changing over time, and over the course of the 4 years, it can be expected to change quite dramatically. The road signs are, by definition, actually just a representation of a certain point in time, and that forecast is, I guess, that forecast point in time is actually the end of this year. In other words, we have not yet quite achieved the population that your road signs reflect, but we will expect to do that by the end of the year. Otherwise, we would have to be changing the road signs every day, and that just wouldn't be reasonable.
Okay, so follow up to that, if I may, Madam Chair. So the last time we had census data, I think it was last spring, came to us, it stated that Cambridge was going to be 163. So was that also a projection to the end of this year?
Sorry, I will ask Ryan to answer the question related to the census data itself.
So are we speaking about the annual population estimates that the Stats Canada website reports? Or are we speaking of the 2021 census? There's two numbers that they typically release.
I can't remember. I know it was here at Regional Council. It was in a report, and it said it was 163 for Cambridge. So I wasn't surprised to hear that we were at the 163 and we were changing our signs. So that's why I'm really confused. But if you're saying it was a projection to 2020, end of 2025, I understand that. So that 163 we heard about a year ago must have been part of that. I'm going to assume. I'll let you off the hook.
Can we get back to, can staff get back
Absolutely.
to you on that, Councillor Liggett? I think just for clarification purposes and to make sure.
I'd like a better understanding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Craig.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. This is really a question that may have to go to the clerk. So when determining population for representatives for each municipality, are we looking at the total population or are we looking at the population in regular households?
No. Tim, do you want to? I thought it came from MPAC data, Tim, but go ahead if you have an answer for it.
I have another question too on this.
Through the chair. So the last review was done in the last term of council. We will be required to do another one after the 2026 election. Without having looked at the report for 4 years, I believe it was done based on this similar sort of data, but it was on registered voters per municipality.
I'm sorry, it was done on registered voters?
Registered voters, yes.
That's how you do it?
I believe so. I would have to check to be certain, and we can get back to you on it, but.
No, I would like to know that because I'm looking in terms of the equity across, which I'm sure is equitable, but I just want to have a look at that. We may. Thank you.
All right, we'll have staff and the clerks get back to you, Councillor Craig. Councillor Hunick?
You only have 12,000 people.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Chair. I'm off my game today. Good thing the Leafs are on theirs. Mine is just a minor question of clarification. In reports from last year, it stated that we'd be 1 million ready for 2050, and this report says 2051, which is totally fine. They're very similar years, but I'm just wondering if that discrepancy is because the estimate is changing or because of something else.
Thank you for the question through the chair. The number we typically project is aligned with census years, so 2021, 2026, 31. 2051 is the year. I think that may have just been a confusion last year.
Sorry, I wasn't able to hear that. Can you repeat it?
The projections we complete and the area municipalities complete as part of their official plans represent a census year. So we project to 2021, 2026, 2031, so on. So 2051 is the year that we're projecting to meet that 1 million ready. Last year must have just been a misread.
Okay, thank you.
So just to confirm, the years fall in line with the census year. So 2051 is a census year. That's why that date is in there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. Hello. A quick question for you. We see the 2025 projected growth rate further declining from where we were in 2024, and understand why that's the case. Do we see that stabilizing into 2026, or do we see any, based on our best estimates now, do we see it stabilizing in 2026, or is there anything that we should be aware of that would send us into a negative condition?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair James. These estimates are based on the information we have available to us today. What we know is that the federal government has indicated a desire to maintain immigration at below 5% of our national population. So the reductions we're seeing in students today is directly reflected of that. As we see students finish their four-year programs, they are not being replaced by the same number of new students. So this trend of reducing the number of international students will take another 2 years as the students we saw start their program last year finish out. So we project that we will start to stabilize in population and probably come back up to that 10 to 12,000 growth per year by 2028.
Yeah, thanks. That's really interesting. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I just want, I guess to say to your also point about students is that, you know, there's the step of graduation and then retaining folks to stay in the community. And I think, you know, as we have conversations about where we're investing and how we're keeping folks in the community, you know, we want to keep young people. We want to attract families to settle here in a longer term way. And I think seeing these numbers dip is a really, it should be for all of us to kind of keep a pulse on as we plan for years ahead.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions. Thank you for this report, and staff will get back to council on some of those questions that did come up. Next item is 7.2.1, so introduction of the wastewater treatment strategy. Councillor McCabe, you had some questions around that?
Yes, I did. Thanks very much for pulling it. Let me just flip back up to where those were. Just a couple of things. So I'm wondering about the recommendations through the wastewater treatment strategy. How will those be, or will those be incorporated into a 10-year capital program? And I guess, and then the follow-up to that is just, I know we have a lot of pressures in our capital program, and particularly given the growth. So where do you see that being prioritized, or are there other program or projects, I should say, that may need to be shifted around?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, this strategy will identify a list of projects that will support growth throughout the region. So once the strategy is completed, that information will be brought back to our council. We will be putting these projects in the water and wastewater capital plan, which is funded through rates and DCs for our growth projects. So we plan our projects according to when development is projected to happen. That's how we prioritize our growth projects. So as things change in the development community, as things change at the area municipalities, we adjust our growth projects to fit with what is happening in real time, so that the area municipalities have capacity in the wastewater treatment system to grow according to when they plan to do that.
Okay, thank you. And just another question, and certainly I know that certainly at least my area municipality staff appreciate being involved in, particularly in the technical and the planning advisory committee that you have. But the question I have was that the region recently conducted a survey to look at sanitary collection system inflow and infiltration. And is that going to be considered as part of this strategy as well?
Through the chair, yes, absolutely. Inflow and infiltration takes up significant capacity, not only in the pipes and the linear collection systems in the area municipalities, but also at the plants themselves. So if there's excessive inflow and infiltration, which is when rainwater and groundwater gets into the sanitary system, we have to change and adjust our chemical processes and our biological processes at the treatment plants, or even put in things like storage tanks. So we have recently, just through staff-to-staff contacts, started a survey with the area municipalities to understand what their I&I, that's inflow and infiltration programs are, so we can work together on a region-wide, possible region-wide approach to solving I&I on the sanitary side, but also on the leak detection on the water side as well, because it's equally as important.
Okay, that's really great to hear. And I guess if I could just unless someone else is on the.
I do have.
Okay, that's okay. Go ahead then.
Chair Redmond?
We're all hanging on to find out what your pithy question was, Councillor McCabe. I just really wanted to commend staff for bringing this forward, and these long-term planning projects for major infrastructure I think are really important as we look at some of the instability and the uncertainty that's facing both the federal and provincial government. I think the better we have our ducks in the row when and if money comes to stimulate the economy, to invest in infrastructure, we are going to be ready for that. So just really want to support this long-term planning and commend you for bringing it forward.
Okay, Councillor McCabe.
I didn't go back into the queue. Thank you. And yeah, agree with what Chair Redmond said. It is really important to have our ducks in a row, given the wastewater we're discussing. There's a joke in there somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, it's, yeah. Just wondering, so it also indicated that there's site-specific studies that are also going on concurrently with the wastewater treatment study to support the potential expansion of treatment capacity at St. Jacobs Wastewater Treatment Plant and the Wellesley Wastewater Treatment Plant, and that may impact the city of Waterloo. So I'm just wondering how you're involving the city of Waterloo with the scope of those studies before they commence.
So through the chair, so you're referring to the St. Jacobs and the Wellesley. Okay. So we like to take a collaborative approach with the area municipalities. So where there would be impact to them, either through their pipes or with capacity issues, then they would be involved in a working group or of something to that nature, or a technical group. So we don't work in isolation. Our team really does take a one region approach to water and wastewater systems, because even though there's several jurisdictions in the region that look after water and wastewater systems their own, we have to take a region-wide approach just to make sure there's enough water supply for everyone and wastewater treatment capacity for everyone. So we absolutely get the area municipalities involved in any of the studies that we're doing that would impact them.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. It's good to know. And I guess part of what I'm hoping to avoid is, the situation that arose with the Grand River Transit planning. It's like that, that we had to tack on a few extra weeks for input. But you're telling me that local municipalities are being involved right from the get-go, really deeply involved, it sounds like, through different advisory committees and that. Okay, that's really great to hear. Thank you. So hopefully we won't have to tack on additional time. Okay, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe, and I echo that. Okay, moving along. Thank you. There's no other questions for that report. Item 7.2.2, the pedestrian crossover. Councillor Salonen.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I have no issues with the additional traffic control of the 2 pedestrian crosswalks proposed. I did have questions on the recommendation, though, specifically on the Schedule 11 items. I understand that Schedule 11 identifies through highways. I'm a bit confused, though, as to why we're removing essentially one section in the removal of through highways on Nafzinger Road from south side of Queensbush Road to Highway 78, but then we're essentially re-adding that entire block back in, but in 3 different sections. And also, what exactly does that mean, and what is its relation to the pedestrian crossings? Commissioner Spooner, if you could help me out with that, thank you.
Through you, Chair, if I may, I'm going to ask Daryl Spencer, Manager of Transportation Engineering, to give us that technical answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Doug, and through you, Chair. Yeah, so the Schedule 11 is a bit complicated to kind of explain, to walk through, but essentially, as it's written today, there's a long section of the highway that's just considered a through highway, which means it has the priority. There's no stop signs or anything like that. But with the introduction of the always stop, we're breaking that up. So there's now different sections that are that are part of the through highway. The reason there's 3 additions, I think we're cleaning up some issues with the way it was written historically. So really, it's just a technicality to allow us to introduce an always stop at that Nafziger and Gerber intersection.
Okay, so in terms of the other locations, because like some of those come into Wilmot, that's not making like any change to people who use those roads by any means? They're not going to suddenly see no parking or changes to speed or anything?
Yeah, through your chair, yeah, no, there's effectively no change to what people are going to experience on the roadway. Again, it's just a technicality, including the sections in Wilmot. Yeah, no change to how the road will behave or how motorists can expect to use the facility.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and did that one have a recommendation with it? Okay, so we will now vote on, I guess, all of the others. Okay. Okay, so, all right, just falling in line here from the clerk. So we will need a mover and a seconder for 7.2.1. So that is the wastewater treatment. Councillor Erb and Councillor McCabe. So you will be prompted in e-scribe. Who are we waiting for? Okay. Councillor Liggett, I was waiting for. Okay, so that carries. Thank you. Next, we will vote on item 7.2.2, the pedestrian crossover. So I have a mover for that. Councillor Saladin, seconder. Councillor Rodriguez. You'll be prompted in e-scribe. Okay, that carries. Thank you all. So we are now moving to the regular agenda. Item 8.1, Corporate Climate Aligned Action Plan. I will call on Rod, Commissioner Regier, to introduce this report, and there is a recommendation.
Thank you very much, Chair James. So, Council will recall that over the last number of years, we've worked together with the community to make very significant commitments in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions as an organization and as a community as a whole. The Corporate Climate Action Plan is the manifestation of the work that we've been doing internally to advance our responsibilities in this area. And our staff, we've got a presentation lined up here to walk you through the strategy and the action plan and how it's come together over the last number of months. And so Danielle will proceed, and we've got Megan and Caitlin to round out the team here. Thanks.
Thank you, Rod. Good afternoon, members of Regional Council. It's my pleasure to be here today to introduce the Corporate Climate Action Plan. This is a plan that supports Growing with Care, our strategic plan, and aligns with the Transform WR strategy, which seeks to reduce community GHG emissions by 80% by 2050 below 2010 levels. The Corporate Climate Action Plan sets out the framework for actions that the region can take to reduce our emissions over the next 5 years in support of achieving the long-term target. Today, we're seeking your approval of the plan that's been developed, and it's been developed collaboratively across all areas of the corporation. I'd like to note that there's no budget request being made at this time. Any additional funding needed to support this work will be requested through future budget cycles and informed by asset management planning. The presentation that we'll present today builds directly on our last presentation to this committee, which was in November of last year. And so I'm pleased to be here with Megan and Caitlin, who are two of our leaders corporately in initiatives that support both corporate as well as community GHG reductions. And they do work with all areas of the organization, as I mentioned earlier. So I'll hand it over to them to walk through the presentation.
Thank you, Danielle. And next slide, please. So our presentation today will build on two previous updates brought forward to Council in June and November of last year. We will highlight the rationale and context for this work, the goals and actions presented in the plan, the financial implications, as well as next steps. Next slide, please. So we know that climate change is driving warmer, wetter, wilder weather here in the region and around the world. It's disrupting global economic systems, causing social instability, and posing serious threats to human health. But we are not powerless, and the choices we make will have an impact in determining our climate future. The figure on the screen illustrates the different warming pathways the global community can choose to follow. Under a 1.5 degrees Celsius warming scenario, in which substantial emissions cuts are made, we will still see water and food shortages and approximately 4.6 million people displaced from sea level rise. But in contrast, a business-as-usual approach that allows the climate to warm by 4 degrees Celsius will see between 470 and 760 million people displaced from sea level rise, severe food insecurity, and half of all plant and animal species extinct. For this reason, the Corporate Climate Action Plan presented here today will use an ambitious but attainable 2050 target that aligns with the goal of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Next slide. So here in Waterloo Region, our colleagues in public health have underscored the significant impacts that climate change is already having on our population. Negative health outcomes associated with the changing climate are anticipated to become far more prevalent over the next few decades. A 2022 Climate Change and Health Vulnerability Assessment conducted by Public Health stated that, quote, reducing greenhouse gas emissions through energy transitions is an opportunity to reduce vulnerability to a changing climate, especially for vulnerable populations. Next slide. With that opportunity in mind, I'll now speak further to the rationale for this Corporate Climate Action Plan. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities estimates that municipalities directly influence approximately 50% of the nation's greenhouse gas emissions, so we have a critical role to play. This is also an opportunity to establish ourselves as climate leaders, thereby encouraging others to take bold action to reduce their emissions. When we look beyond the health impacts, we can see that climate change is expensive and economically disruptive. Last year, our country experienced its most expensive year on record for weather-related insurance claims, with payouts reaching $8.5 billion, according to the Insurance Bureau of Canada. So there's a strong business case to be made for climate action. Next slide. The 5-year action plan we're bringing to you today focuses specifically on the actions the region can take to advance toward our shared climate mitigation goals. So this means this plan is scoped specifically to reducing our corporate greenhouse gas emissions. It's been designed to align directly with Transform WR, as well as our strategic plan and the more tightly scoped corporate energy plan. The plan is anchored to a long-term target of net zero emissions from energy sources. And our aim will be to update this plan every 5 years as we work toward our 2050 net zero vision. Next slide. So as Danielle noted, this has truly been a collaborative effort amongst staff from across the organization. It reflects the immense and diverse expertise held by our colleagues, and it builds on the progress we've already made in our corporate energy transition. So as we move forward, we will continue to work together across all departments to share knowledge, maximize efficiencies, and leverage internal and external partnerships to achieve our long-term goals. Next slide. To ensure the next 5 years of work will move us along a path to achieving our long-term goal of net zero emissions, we modeled possible 25-year decarbonization scenarios for the corporation. This modeling exercise is summarized on the slide with a business-as-usual scenario represented by the red line, the top line, and a target-aligned decarbonization scenario represented by the gray line. This figure illustrates that while our 2050 goal is ambitious, it is also achievable. So we're proposing to divide our corporate energy transition into 3 general phases of work. In phase 1, we will establish critical policies and standards needed to facilitate rapid decarbonization beyond 2030, and this phase is captured by the plan in front of you today. In Phase 2, shown in orange, we will see rapid decarbonization of our services and infrastructure. And finally, in Phase 3, shown in blue, we will offset our remaining corporate emissions through the purchase of high-quality carbon credits. Next slide. So what are the financial implications of this first phase of work over the next 5 years? Of the 55 actions proposed in the plan, 41 are currently accounted for in the 10-year capital program. A precise estimate of the remaining 14 actions will be determined through the completion of additional studies as part of the implementation of this plan. All actions will be subject to funding approval by Council through future annual budget processes. Furthermore, Council will be engaged in climate action prioritization through regular asset management plan updates and approval processes. If the plan is approved, we will launch this year the development of a comprehensive financial strategy to support the next phase of work. And I'll now turn the presentation over to Caitlin.
Presented on the next two slides are 4 theme areas presented in the plan, along with a small sample of actions. First, we have buildings, with a goal to achieve net zero energy emissions in region-owned facilities by 2050. These actions include things like installing renewable energy systems in existing and new regional buildings. The next theme area is waste, water, and wastewater, with the goal to mitigate the release of fugitive methane and adopt innovative approaches to reduce operational emissions. Actions include advancing academic partnerships that will allow us to mitigate fugitive methane from landfills and explore a region-wide thermal utility. Next slide. Next is fleet, GRT, and transportation, with the goal to procure only low-carbon fleet and transit vehicles by 2050, and invest in infrastructure, programs, and services that support sustainable choices. Actions include an EV charging strategy, as well as the development of an integrated mobility plan, which is now underway with the transportation team. Finally, the last theme area is capacity building, with the goal to integrate climate change action into the decision-making fabric of the region. Actions include developing a climate accountability framework that includes a robust monitoring and transparency to enable climate-informed decision-making that achieve our goals. Next slide. To inform the long-term financial planning, we conducted a decarbonization investment analysis, which builds on an order of magnitude estimate presented to Council in 2024. The results of this analysis indicate that an additional investment needed to support decarbonization may range between $1 to $1.5 billion over the next 25 years. 74% of this investment is attributed to GRT bus electrification, using current electric bus costs, which are expected to decline significantly as technologies improve. In anticipation of this, GRT remains committed to long-term fleet decarbonization when proven technology becomes financially and operationally viable. Moving forward, we will integrate decarbonization considerations into asset management planning and capital prioritization, which will be subject to the annual budget process. So why should we act now and invest in the energy transition? The faster we reach net zero, the greater our chances of mitigating catastrophic losses due to extreme weather. For example, the most recent flooding in Toronto in 2024 cost nearly $1 billion. This cost is borne on local governments, business, and homeowners. We also anticipate operational savings and avoided costs associated with our decarbonization efforts. But due to data limitations, these savings have not yet been captured in our estimates. In addition, we can capitalize on external funding opportunities and financial tools to support this essential work. Next slide. If Council approves the proposed plan, we will begin to implement many of the actions that we spoke about today, such as developing net zero building standards, which we will ensure new buildings do not contribute to our corporate emissions, a green fleet policy to identify the business case and procurement approach to replace regional fleet with viable low-carbon alternatives, a financial strategy to identify innovative funding sources and approaches to finance the decarbonization investment. We will continue to build on a climate accountability framework, which will establish a process for incorporating climate considerations into budget planning and decision-making. Finally, together with our area municipal colleagues, we will leverage the amazing community partnerships we have in place through initiatives like Climate Action Waterloo Region and Waterloo Region Community Energy. As we look further ahead, we will plan to update this plan beginning in 2029, and we will integrate new solutions and technologies as they emerge. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a few councillors in the queue here. Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I was just talking with our staff a couple days ago about a plan, and one of the things we talked about was the fact that our plan, and I think this plan is very internal, it's corporate because that's what we can control. So how do we encourage the rest of the community to adopt some of these similar strategies, and what plans do we have for engaging the community?
Through the chair, here we really rely on our Climate Action WR Collaborative, which is comprised of our area municipal partners, the region, and then other public agencies. And that is really what we're tackling, is how do we engage the community? Here at the region, I think we're uniquely positioned to offer affordable transit solutions, which I think is one of our most powerful tools to drive down community emissions, given that transportation emissions represent about half of all community emissions. But yeah, I would refer to the Climate Action WR partnership, and they are really a public-facing entity, reaching out, engaged in the community, understanding their needs, and helping to encourage really strong climate action amongst residents.
And just to follow up on that, on the bus, on the transit piece, so there was quite a large, I forget the number, of cost associated with, I'm assuming that's because the cost of the buses are more expensive. Have you accounted at all for the fact that, at least currently, the buses can't do a complete route? So like, is that all part of that cost?
Through you, Chair, I can help out there, Councillor. Thank you for the question. So the numbers that you see in front of you for transit specifically consider a one-to-one bus replacement. So as you know, the technology is not currently able to do one-to-one bus replacement, which is why with Council support, we've taken a bit of a broader procurement approach until the technology catches up, and then at that point, we could look at further investment. Thank you.
May I just follow up on that one?
Yes,
just
you can
really
follow
quick?
up with that.
Thank you. So the intent would be to sort of wait until we can find equipment that can run a complete route, so we don't have to do sort of back and forth on it before we get into those procurements.
Through you, Chair. Yeah, and my colleague Megan has been speaking to it a little bit. The win for us is on the community emissions side, and is getting people on the bus. And it's not making transit more expensive to run. In fact, we want to make it cheaper to run. As you know, we're very focused on the cost recovery ratio and those elements. So you're exactly right. We're watching battery technology closely. We know it's improving. We're looking with Council's direction at all propulsion technologies, but we don't want to hurt the service. We want to make the service continually better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for being here. This is super exciting. I love this work. I also want to thank you for getting some clarification back on the airport piece and how that factors in. I think it's really important as we move forward with this work to consider how our, how the growth of the airport factors into our corporate emissions and what we're taking on as a region. And so, I appreciate some of the context that was able to be provided and then some of the work that's ongoing there. A question actually back on the transit thread. So I think it was 2028 was a sort of the rough timeline that you had for some of the transit procurement or transit study and looking at fleet options. Commissioner Smitter, could you maybe speak to how that jives with our procurement timelines, and if we're, that the work that these folks are doing and the work that you're doing comes together for our next big procurement push?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Councillor, you may not know that last year your colleagues around the Horseshoe approved us to purchase 36 new hybrid buses, and so we're still in the phase of taking delivery of those and getting them out on the road. Our next procurement is actually focused on Mobility Plus vehicles and looking at right-sizing those vehicles for their use. We'll keep looking at our procurements as we go forward. We obviously bring those prior to doing them. With the hopeful adoption and acceptance of the GRT business plan and June's SID, we'd then move into the fleet strategy and acquisition plan for vehicles going forward. So we're not quite there. We have an estimate, but we'll get tighter as we get closer. Thank you.
And just a final question. So there's an action in there related to updating how we approach staff reports and some of the climate impacts that are noted in the staff reports. Is perhaps a question and half a comment. I guess, have you given any thought to how that would, how we might approach that type of thing, and how, different divisions may approach that from a different perspective, right? If we could get into a situation where we're justifying road widening by, reducing congestion, but I think that's a bit of a false premise to be operating under. So just wondering if there's any thought about how we might standardize some of that, how we can be really meaningful in that section of understanding deeply what are the implications of our decisions.
Through the chair, to your point, yes, we would really want this to be standardized such that it's a consistent approach. We have given some initial thought, but much more to come. As I alluded to in the presentation, we also want to ensure this really integrates nicely with asset management planning and capital prioritization processes, as they then are reflected in any staff reports. So more to come. I think we're going to give that some more thought, but definitely a standardized, consistent approach.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair James. Thank you for this excellent presentation and report. I think my question dovetails really well off of Councillor Rodriguez. I think we around this table are very well intentioned when it comes to climate action, and that's great. I'm not sure how many of us will be still around this table in 2029 and beyond. And so I'm wondering if this will come in the climate sections of the reports that are future, or if this could be added to the plan that you currently have, a mechanism to inform future council members of when we're moving off track from the plan and what the potential financial and climate implications might be. I appreciate that there's no financial ask today, but that will be coming. And oftentimes, when we look at our good intentions and then our budgetary concerns, they don't always fully align. And so, just ways that you can keep council informed of the climate impacts of our decisions.
Through the chair, thank you for that excellent question. We do plan to submit an annual progress report to council starting next year with the implementation, if approved, of this plan. We also plan to utilize a carbon budget process, which will be phased in over the next 5 years. And what we will do to start is do a qualitative assessment of a series of projects to show what the climate impacts might be of those projects and how they align with our target, and are we keeping pace with our decarbonization pathway. So that mechanism will be really important for maintaining that accountability, and that would be presented as part of this annual package to council.
Great, and then so that's really encouraging to hear. Thank you very much. And just a follow-up comment, if I may. I'm not sure when you're thinking the annual report will fall in the cycle, but I would suggest directly before budget time, so that climate is top of mind when we go through the budget process. Thanks.
Thank you. Chair Redmond, or did you want to respond to that? Or I think it was clear. Chair Redmond.
So you've brilliantly answered the question I was going to ask, and that is just how we marry $1 billion to $1.5 billion for transition is a very big number. And I think the ability to marry the, and I really like the report because it shows you the cost of inaction. And I think that's very, very important. But when we do action and when we move forward and we invest, I think it's also really important not to separate capital from operation necessarily, so that we know the benefit that's coming from that. And that does need to be part of the budget process because we always have limited funds and competing needs. I think you've kind of already answered my question, but I don't know if you want to make a comment. I think as we go forward, it'll be really important to continue to see the merits of this kind of investment.
Thank you. Councillor McCabe.
Thank you. And through you, thanks for another excellent report, although it is pretty daunting and dire to think about what's coming our way. But it's, information is good to have, of course. My question, I did want to ask about the carbon budget, but I think I heard you say that that's coming, that'll be started. Like, could you just explain sort of how that process is going to work out and roll out?
Through the chair, sure, great question. We will follow a process very similar to that of the City of Toronto, and they've taken sort of a 5 years phased approach. And so we will do the same as it takes time to really scale up and integrate the data and staff capacity needed to report quantitatively on the carbon impacts of a given project. So what we'll do first is start with a qualitative assessment of projects, a pilot of projects, report on the associated carbon impacts and whether or not they align with our targets. And as data becomes more available and as we can integrate this into our decision-making processes, we're hoping over the next few years we can move toward a much more robust quantitative report that would evaluate major capital projects and the carbon impacts of those.
So do you have a sense of like what those initial projects will be? Like, are they road projects? Are they wastewater treatment projects? Are they?
We are just in internal discussions to determine which ones we would bring forward. Major capital projects or fleet procurement, that type of thing would be included in that. But we haven't determined who will be included in that pilot yet. Still lots of internal discussion to happen before we bring that forward.
Okay, so it'll be another year before we see this starting to be embedded in the like the financial budget part?
Potentially. I would say, we still need a bit of time to determine how best to bring that forward in a really logical, seamless way.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question was about the airport, and I know Councillor Rodriguez, you must have asked your question ahead of time, but could you just for my benefit and the benefit of the rest of council, I was curious about if that was included or the carbon emissions that come from our airport, or if that's separate, or how that fits into this. Thanks.
Through the chair. So yes, great question from you both. The question specifically looked at are emissions associated with air travel included in our decarbonization pathway? So we call those Scope 3 emissions, and those are emissions that are beyond our direct control. They're generated by partners as part of our business activities, but we don't control those directly. So we don't actually include Scope 3 in the modeling that we do and in our corporate emissions inventory. Now that said, airport staff are undertaking a number of programs to bring down those Scope 3 emissions. For example, they are partners in the Waterloo Institute for Sustainable Aeronautics. I had to look at my notes for that one, which is looking at alternative fuel sources to bring down those emissions. The Airport Decarbonization Action Plan does the same. It actively considers how we can bring down those Scope 3 emissions by working with our partners and vendors at the airport. The Airport Master Plan as well gives consideration to that. So steps are being taken, but to answer your specific question, we did not account for that in the decarbonization modeling that we did.
Thanks very much again. I think as I think Chair Redmond mentioned, but like having this information ready for, hopefully if there is some stimulus added into municipalities or into the marketplace, it's really smart to have this kind of information ready so that we can make our requests quickly and really definitively. So thank you very much.
So no further questions. Councillor McCabe, are you prepared to move this?
Right, yes, certainly. I'll be happy to move it.
Okay, and I need a seconder. Councillor Hunick. Okay, you'll be prompted in e-scribe, seeing no further questions from council. Okay, that is carried, and thanks again to staff for the work on that. Next, we will move on to 8.1.2, Waterloo Region water heaters. So I'm going to call on Commissioner Rose to speak to this, and there is a recommendation for this report.
Thank you, Chair. So the report before you today is an exciting report for us in terms of supporting the previous report. The report shows an example of how the region is working towards our climate goals, literally one home at a time, and supports the building category that was in the previous report. So in this report, we are recommending that we do a pilot in 2025 and 2026 to replace gas-powered water heaters with electric ones in Waterloo Region housing. This would put pressure on the operating budget, as the region will need to compensate the tenants of Waterloo Region housing for the increased electricity costs, which they are responsible for. But we will be doing this because through the savings from the gas costs, which the region currently pays for. So for the gas-powered water heaters, the region pays for the gas costs. So, and the difference would be covered by the tax levy, and you'll see that in the financial implications sections in the report. So we have the funds in our current operating budget to cover the 84 that are part of the pilot for this year. And should the pilot prove successful, we will put forward the future operating impacts for budget considerations in future years to replace all of the water heaters over a 10-year period. Commissioner Sweeney and I are here to answer any questions you may have either about water heaters or the impact to the tenants.
Thank you. There are a few. Councillor McCabe?
Thank you. Just through you, Chair, just a quick question. Are the water heaters currently, do we own them or do we rent them?
We currently own the water heaters.
Oh, okay.
And they have a 10-year lifespan.
Okay. And thank you for that. I mostly just wanted to say I'm prepared to move this motion at the appropriate time, but also just to, and thank you, staff, for taking this approach. And I think this is one of the examples, like what we just heard from the corporate climate plan, where, this is some of the low-hanging fruit, but it also impacts like local jobs, and hopefully these are locally procured. I would imagine that I hope that the heat pumps are able to be locally procured, given all the tariff stuff that's going on. But I think this is a good example of where climate action and just economic activity really can merge well together. Thank you. So I'm prepared to move that.
Okay. Do I have a seconder, and we'll continue through? Okay. Councillor Liggett, perfect. Okay. I'll continue to go through the queue. Councillor Salonen.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just wanted to understand in the financial implications, it says over the next 10 years in that section, specifically on the tax rate increase, and eScribe just kicked me out, but it has a certain number of cents per household. Is that annually, or is that to say for the whole 10 years it's costing, I think it was like just shy of 50 cents. I was curious about that. 43 cents per household, but it's under the over the next 10 years section.
Yes, so to Councillor, through the Chair to Councillor Salonen, the impact to average household, I believe, will be at 43 cents in the next 10 years. Is that how you're reading it, Commissioner?
Yeah, I'm wondering, is that every year? Is that cumulatively in 10 years you'll spend 50 cents per household on this?
Yeah, through the chair. So that's an overall estimate over the 10 years that it would have that kind of impact. But this is all based on those assumptions on what the electricity rates and the gas rates will be in the table following that for the next 10 years. So it's just a bit of an estimate of the context, and it's, I think, why a pilot is being done to see what actually comes out of this, like what the actual additional costs, if it's going to be that much or not, what it'll actually come out to.
Okay, thank you. And then just a follow-up, if I may, Chair. In the future years part, and I appreciate because it's a pilot that it will be reassessed in 10 years' time when they come up for renewal again. But what is the function of, say it doesn't work out, we're not removing the access to natural gas, correct?
Yeah, so through the chair to the councillor, what we're doing as part of the pilot is to see, as Commissioner Steffler said, is, our assumptions around the financials are correct. We will use that time to understand whether we would come back to council and say whether the pilot was successful or not, to move forward with future operating budget considerations. We're not going to be removing the gas. I'm not sure what the gas pipe in the house.
Yep.
So that will still be there.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you, Chair. I'm really excited about this report. I think that every individual in our region, as well as our community collectively, has a role to play in terms of climate change action, but I'm also very conscious of the fact that fluctuating electricity bills can cause major waves in fixed income households. And so I saw the intent of covering the difference through the rebate, which I think is a great idea. I'm concerned about what checks and balances are in place so that we can ensure that we're actually covering the difference and not just saying that we want to.
Yes, so through the chair to the councillor, and perhaps Commissioner Sweeney will want to expand on this more, but from what I understand, his team is going to be looking at utility costs as a whole through the pilot to, I'm assuming, reevaluate how that is being done.
Yeah, thank you. So the intention here is for this to be in the short term, sort of a net wash for our residents. And so we recognize, as it is alluded to in the report, the way we are working across our WRH facilities with respect to hydro and electricity is inconsistent. So there's some work that needs to happen there. And the idea is also acknowledging, as you have, Councillor, that we all have a role to play. So we want to make sure that we create the proper incentives for those residing in our WRH facilities to also participate in our effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions without impacting negatively their financial situation. And I refer back to our conversation this morning about income security. So the idea is to move through with this first phase, ensure that folks are kept whole, and then look at how we can continue to roll this out in a way that achieves both our economic goals and also our GHG goals as well.
So thank you, Peter. Is phase 1 10 years long?
Sorry, no, it's just the 2 years. It's just the initial water heater or the initial units. And so we will evaluate that process and come back to council before we decide on a longer term program that would cover all of our WRH facilities going forward. So we want to make sure that this works on many levels before we make any longer term plans.
Okay, so just one more question, if I can close my train of thought. So if we discover 6 months down the road or a year down the road that it's really not accomplishing that the rebate is really not accomplishing its intended impact, do we have the ability to modify that?
Yes, absolutely. We'll be working together. This is sort of a cross-departmental initiative, and again, we're trying to ensure that we see the GHG savings or targets, that we're also not adversely impacting our residents, and finding a pathway forward where we can achieve those organizational goals, those community goals, and that the folks who are residing in our units are also participating in that and are incented to also use less energy and more efficient energy sources as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, and through the chair. So the rebate is for the actual water heater, is that correct?
So through the chair to the councillor, the rebate is for, so right now, the the tenants in Waterloo Region Housing pay the electricity costs for everything in their unit, and the region pays for the gas. And in this case, in this particular case, the gas I'm referring to is the gas to heat the water in the gas-powered water heater. So the rebate would be when we switch to the electric water heaters, if this is approved by council, when we switch to the electric water heaters, their electricity costs will go up. So the tenant will have a higher electricity bill than what they had before we switched out the water heaters. So the report and staff are recommending that we take the savings that the region would have paid for the gas-powered water heater, plus that 0.06% or 6 cents, which was in the financial section there, to rebate the Waterloo Region Housing tenant. I hope that was clear.
Actually, it was. You did a good job of explaining that, and thank you. Would that go on just for the 2-year pilot, or would that be consistent?
So right now, we're looking at it as a pilot, but as Commissioner Sweeney said, the housing team is going to be looking at utilities in general, and there may be changes through this pilot that we will be bringing back to council as part of the budget deliberations.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Harris.
Thank you. I'm trying to get to the report, but there's 200 and some pages here, so I'll just ask the question. The pilot with 84 gas-powered hot water heaters, is this one building, or would you be picking several buildings to do this?
So through the chair to Councillor Harris, the way we're doing it is by the end of the life of the water heater itself. So we have 84 that are end of life right now in 25, and then I think there's another 40 for 2026. So we're doing this replacement based on the life of the water heater itself. So that's why it's a 10-year program. So we're waiting until the water heaters are old enough to replace.
So once they go kaput, you basically say, okay, we're going to swap it out with an electric one instead of gas.
If council approves this report, we'll do that as the pilot in these first 2 years, and then we'll come back to council should this pilot be successful to see if we can do it for the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean, we're shifting obviously some of the costs for rebating the unit. I mean, that will add some complexity for I guess finance staff to be able to sort out. Okay, well, we replace the unit here X, they get a rebate. Bit of paperwork involved in that instead of just doing one building. I get it. I will just remind folks that I think we've tried over the last little while to not make decisions midway through that impacts future operating budgets. I know this is somewhat minuscule in a way, but I would just want to clarify that the pilot prior to proceeding with item C, maybe even item B, that we get that data back so that we can officially make a decision based on facts and how that pilot went before we commit now to a 10-year program that commits us both operating and capital mid-budget cycle. That maybe we even include review the pilot program next budget cycle, for instance, so that we can include that discussion and deliberation at that point and not do it outside of budget process. So we've got, from what I understand, we have capacity in this year's operating and capital without impacting anything to do the existing 84, correct? So that's fine. I guess just wanted clarity that council would have an opportunity to then, again, review the results and say yes or no without having committing it to today. So am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, so through the chair, that's exactly the intent of the recommendations, is that for 2026, we'll include it for budget considerations for the second year of the pilot. The full results of the pilot will be done after 2 years should council approve the second year in 2026 budget deliberations.
Yeah, it's captured in the budget.
Yeah, and finally, just as a clarity, I mean, the good thing here in the region is that the city, we own our own utilities, so I'm assuming you've had an opportunity to speak to, Kitchener Utilities. Maybe there's additional incentive programs, even Kitchener, Wilmot, I guess it's Anova Hydro now, to see how we can, further leverage those relationships on, some of these installs, you see ads all the time from companies that are, encouraging you to replace your water heater. I did so myself, and I'm hoping that I get the financial benefit of it here shortly, but I do look forward to seeing the data come back after the pilot, so leave it there.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question of clarification building on Councillor Harris's question. So in terms of the 2025 year, the capital costs are within our approved budget, but there is a $17,000 operating difference. Am I reading that right? Or are the costs fully accounted for 2025 in?
Through the chair. Yeah, so the capital amount of 84 is in the capital budget. That additional 17,400 is that estimate based on the analysis of looking at what the utility rates are now. We're estimating this could cost an additional 17,000, but
it's an estimate for now,
which the department feels they can cover. But part of it is to do the pilot to see what it actually turns out to be and bring that forward.
No, that's great. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. My question was along the same lines. So that 17,000 that shows up is for the first year for those 50 units. So in 2026, does that 17,000 still there? Like when you total it up, are those just first year costs, or are those the cumulative ongoing costs to the end of 10 years?
Through the chair, yeah, it would. Again, it's based on what the utility rates are now, and they could vary considerably over the next 10 years. Gas rates could change, hydro rates could change, but what we see now is based on the estimate of the cost differential and the usage of electricity, that it would be 17,000 additional cost to the unit this year. And that would continue because we'd continue to own the heaters for 10 years, so that would continue on each year. If the rates were at those rates, assuming the rates stayed at what the rates are right now.
When I look at, sorry, if I may, when I look at the total at the bottom, that looks like the total cost to the region at the end of 10 years. That's not true then, because you'd need to add the 17,000 for 10 years. So the 17,000 would become 170,000 and so on if you were to actually do that, just so I understand the implication.
Yeah, so through the chair to the councillor, each year it's going to be different. So in 2025, we're replacing 84 water heaters. In 2026, we're replacing 40 water heaters. So you're going to see that 17,400 is not going to be for every single year. It'll change depending. Oh no, wait a minute. It's going to include you're right. The 17 is going to be included, and then it's going to be added on to the 40 water heaters. That's right. So, yeah. For the just to clarify though, for the capital, we already have all the capital in our 10-year forecast for the replacement. So I just wanted to let council know that as well.
Did you want to?
So yeah, through the chair, just to clarify for Councillor Shantz, that you're correct, that net impact to the region, that's not a cumulative, that's that each year based on that estimate. But again, this is a pilot just to see how this works out with those existing 84, or the first 84. But that's not a cumulative total at the bottom of that table.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Salonen.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I'm just wondering, I would be willing to move the motion, but subject to changing a bit of the wording, more in line with what Councillor Harris was saying, particularly on Part B. It slightly seems to contradict what the summary conclusions in the report are.
So Councillor Salonen, it's already been moved and seconded.
Okay, so could we look at amending
and
that
then? You'd have to look at an amendment.
So could the amendment be in Part B that staff bring forward to council for consideration? I just don't quite like the subject to council deliberations versus this is essentially saying that we're approving it instead. I'd prefer that wording, that language to be changed, as well as I think just a report back and remove on part C, remove out the if possible section, because the report back, I don't think that we should preemptively be assuming what the results of the pilot should be. So instead, I think it should just be a report back as to what it is, opposed to making assumptions today.
Okay, so just to clarify, so part B, you're looking at the last line, subject to council consideration, that language being changed instead of deliberation?
Yeah, or just bring to the 2026 budget for council consideration instead. So just make part B say, bring forward to 2026 budget for council consideration. So completely change that wording. And then just remove out the assumption of the if positive component on part C, so that we're not making.
So hot water tanks and propose continuing, not if possible.
Not even propose continuing, just completely cross it out so that we aren't making any assumptions about how the pilot's going to succeed. Because the staff report is going to show whatever data, and then staff can obviously make the recommendation if it makes sense, but I just don't want us to be making those assumptions. So I would move those two amendments.
Okay, Steph, we're just putting in an e-scribe right now to make sure it's, okay. And then, yes, and then we can debate on the amendment. Absolutely.
Councillor Hallinan, you're, just to clarify, you're okay with leaving in the part that says as described in report, blah, 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 just as a technical, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hunick, I'm going to read out the amended recommendation, okay? All right, that the Regional Municipality of Waterloo directs staff to proceed with a pilot to exchange 84 gas-powered hot water heaters to electric-powered hot water heaters in affordable housing funded through existing capital and operating budgets in 2025. Continuing the pilot into 2026 for 40 more hot water tank exchanges funded from the 2026 capital plan and operating budget for council consideration in the 2026 budget process. And what? Okay. Okay, so, and then the final part, Councillor Hunick, report back to council on the result of the pilot to convert up to 124 gas-powered hot water tanks to electric-powered hot water tanks. As described in the report, and this is changing on me. So come back for consideration the 2020.
Because then that's essentially us making a decision point right now.
Okay. Councillor Salonen, are you seeing this on the screen? Does this, no, you're not seeing that yet? Okay. Do you want to come here? Okay, the amendment is up. It is correct. Councillor Hunick, I'm going to read it just for clarification. All right, that the regional municipality of Waterloo directs staff to proceed with a pilot to exchange 84 gas-powered hot water heaters to electric-powered hot water heaters in affordable housing, funded through existing capital and operating budgets in 2025. B, that staff bring forward consideration for continuing the pilot project for 40 more water tanks to 2026 budget deliberations. And C, report back to council on the result of the pilot to convert up to 124 gas-powered hot water tanks to electric-powered hot water tanks. And subject to the 2026 and future budget deliberations as described in report EES FFM 25-001 dated May 6, 2025. Okay, I need some water. So moved by Councillor Sullivan, seconded by Councillor Hunick. Okay, and Chair Redmond, you wanted to speak to the motion, to the amendment?
Now that I'm reading it, it's clear.
Perfect. Okay. Any further discussion on this? Councillor Harris? Yep.
Yeah, I like the motion. Thank you. It's just the timing. I mean, will we have the data for, like, we're going to hit, I mean, as much as I don't want to admit it, we're staring budget here down any day now, it seems like. So are we going to be ready to have data for 2026, or do you want to push it out a year and do it in 27?
Through the chair to Councillor Harris, I'd like to see where we get this year, and then, but we may have to push it out to 27,
Okay.
considering that it is May, 5th now? May 6th, yeah. You have a point, but I'd like to see if we can get some initial data.
Yeah, good. All right,
Yeah,
so
but-
let's.
And if not, then, yeah.
Yeah, well, let's just deal with it at the budget, and then
Yeah.
whatever data you have, we can go forward with, and if we don't have enough, then we can push it off for the next year. Good.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, seeing no further questions, we are going to vote on the amendment, and then should that pass, we will vote on the main motion as amended, okay? Councillor Harris. Okay, so that carries, and the main motion we had, who's first, it was that Councillor Foxton? Okay, so that was moved by Councillor McCabe, seconded by Councillor Liggett. You're still good with the main motion. Okay, are there any, there's nobody in the queue for that, so we will vote on the main motion as amended. That carries. Thank you, colleagues. Next, we will move on to 8.1.3, the expropriation Herb Street West project. Call on Fiona McRae to speak to this, and there is a recommendation, so we will need a mover and a seconder for this.
Thank you very much, Chair James, and through you. This first report is to request Council to approve the application for expropriation of a parcel of land and temporary grading easement from the lands known as 658 Herb Street West in Waterloo. This is to facilitate the construction of road improvements to Herb Street West at the intersection with Boudreau Place, a private road. The region's project includes widening Herb Street to 4 lanes, construction of a roundabout at that intersection, relocation of a stormwater management facility, construction of sidewalk and cycling facilities. The proposed improvements were approved by Council in 2018, and the subject partial taking and temporary easement are required for the final phase of this project. Region staff and the affected property owner and its representatives have been in regular contact regarding the region's requirements. The owner is aware of this request to commence expropriation process for the subject lands. The owner has been provided with the expropriation information sheet that's attached to your report, and a real property appraisal for the lands and an offer to purchase. The region has agreements with the owners of 2 other properties impacted by the project construction. Region staff will continue to work with the property owner through the process in an effort to achieve a negotiated resolution. Commencing the expropriation process at this time will ensure that the retained lands are in the possession of the region to permit construction to begin as scheduled in May of 2026.
All right, Councillor Erb, you're going to move it. Councillor Foxton, you'll second it. I have Councillor McCabe. You're okay. All right. So I'm going to call clerks to prompt e-scribe for us. Councillor Erb, Councillor Wolf, you in favor? Okay. Okay, so that carries. Moving on to 8.1.4, it's the Bleem Road Extension Surplus Declaration of Lands. Fiona, you're up on deck again.
Thank you, Chair James, and through you. The purpose of this report is to declare certain lands owned by the region surplus to the needs of the region and to authorize a land exchange agreement with the City of Kitchener to provide for the transfer of lands that are being declared surplus to the city in exchange for certain city-owned lands required for the Bleems Road extension. In 1990, the City of Kitchener transferred certain lands to the region at nominal cost to be used for a road extension between Manitou Drive and Wilson Avenue. As road design and land requirements of the region have since changed, different lands are required from the City of Kitchener. The proposed land exchange agreement provides for the transfer of certain lands by the region back to the city, the reconveyance lands, that are no longer required for the road extension, and the transfer of certain lands by the city to the region for the new Bleems Road extension, all at nominal consideration. These lands are depicted in Appendix A to your report. As part of the land exchange, the region will also grant the city permanent easements over region lands for a city trail and sanitary line under the Bleems Road Bridge, and for the city's trail traversing the driveway apron of the access to well house number 32. The city will grant a permanent easement to the region for the region's water main. Approximately 1.6 acres is the area of the reconveyance lands to be transferred to the city, and 1.5 acres of the Bleems Road lands to be transferred to the region of Waterloo. The majority of the lands are similarly zoned natural conservation. In accordance with the region's disposal of land bylaw, applicable regional departments were circulated on the intent to dispose of the reconveyance lands, and no interest or concern was identified. Conditional upon Council's declaration of the reconveyance lands as surplus to the region's needs, Region staff support the proposed land exchange and recommend approval of the proposed land exchange agreement.
Thank you. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Harris, seconded by Councillor Erb. Okay, seeing no questions, will be prompted in e-scribe. Yes, I. So that is carried. Next item for regular business is the Cambridge Truck Diversion Project Evaluation. I will call on Commissioner Spooner to introduce this.
Through you, Chair. Thank you. Council, I wanted to provide the report today recognizing there are two competing ideas. First is that the truck diversion is working overall. Truck volumes have now settled with a significant reduction in truck traffic in all segments for all truck types, and I shared that's roughly around 60%. It was also a really cost-effective project with only $13,000 in signage to achieve that result. Second was the delegation today. Jamie rightly pointed out the solution does not eliminate trucks from the areas of the diversion or from the front of Jamie's home, which is actually not covered by the diversion. It's just south of the start of the diversion. So the challenge lies in the what's next, and Jamie rightly presented the problem as a challenge to find a brilliant solution to a very challenging problem. So just a quick reminder of the problem statement, Council. We've got a number of solutions, but effectively think about a truck traveling up Water Street into Cambridge, where Water and Ainslie split. It will follow Ainslie up to Concession Cedar, hang a left, and go across the bridge. In the little triangle between Ainslie and Water there is exactly the properties that we were talking about. There are people living there. So, solutions. We first looked at simply not veering onto Ainslie, staying on Water to take the left onto Cedar Bridge. That movement doesn't work. The trucks are too large and the turn radius doesn't allow for us getting onto the bridge. That would have been the very low cost, easy solution. And I am telling you these in order of capital cost. So as I move through, keep that in mind. As we start looking further south, before the trucks get to this area, there is an existing route across McQueen Shaver and up Franklin, but obviously depending on the destination of those trucks, some are choosing not to use that route. To the west of us here is the Grand River. And that presents a significant challenge. We have two options. There is a bridge on Footbridge Road. It's owned by the Township of North Dumfries. It was referenced in the delegation today. Even if we're able to reinforce that bridge that does have a load restriction for 2 months of the year, it does land in an area that hasn't been designed for truck traffic. So it's not that folks live there in that it's a residential area. It's that the actual road configuration has been done for residential type use, not truck use. The next solution actually lies in our 2018 Integrated Mobility Plan, which is called the Cambridge South Link. And that looked at an extension of McQueen Shaver Boulevard west across the Grand River, and then generally northwest along the Cambridge boundary towards Sprague's Road. That project was deferred beyond 2041 due to the high cost and at the time the lack of demonstrated need. So I sit here today, between those two pieces, that the truck diversion has done its job, but that it isn't a complete solution, and it's not absolutely not a solution for Jamie and other residents that area. So I think Council, this is the stuff that bothers our team when we look at infrastructure challenges that result in quality of life impacts. We want to help. We want to find solutions. We don't have one apparent right in front of us that will be easy. We'll continue to look at the Cambridge South Link as part of the Integrated Mobility Plan that we're advancing now. But that doesn't solve the problem for Jamie and his friends and family in the community. So I will stop there, and any questions, please.
Thank you. There are a few. Councillor Craig.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just very quickly, and I do appreciate Mr. Spooner's comprehensive review of this. The 60% diversion is a great start. I would like to see more enforcement to improve those numbers. But I come back to the bridge question. We have 3 bridges. We have stressed out roads in Cambridge in terms of traffic down Ainsley Water, down Hespler Road. And we look at, there's been talk of a fourth bridge, which you have alluded to. I'm just bringing up to, can you bring us more up to date about why that doesn't meet any demands?
Through you, Chair, yes. So when we do a plan like the Integrated Mobility Plan, we do a network model. It looks at land use patterns in the coming years. In 2018, that went out to 2041. The updated version will look out a little bit farther than that. And effectively, we try to look at infrastructure improvements and levels of investment and how those, the number of people that impact or have improved conditions based on that. So it just wouldn't at this time have the level of usage up, past 2041 that we feel would be justified. I'm happy to provide more detail on that if it's council's interest.
Well, Madam Chair, I would like more detail because I can remember sitting here on council with Mayor Zare, and he was commenting on the fact that Kitchener only had one access from the 401, and we built him a bridge. And that's what it came down to. A need I'm not really aware of. But I think the sort of re-examination of the fourth bridge is a necessity. I think we should be looking at that now in the immediacy as opposed to somewhere out there. And again, I want to say, Madam Chair, I am pleased with the report, where we're heading. And I would like to have an update on the enforcement as we go along. So those two things, fourth bridge, enforcement, easy things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foxton.
Well, you've certainly opened up a whole bag of worms here. First off, the footbridge is a bridge for gravel trucks because they use it, and that's why there's the the right turn lane coming down Highway 24. Also, maybe we should talk to the province because they're going to be updating 24. We've been working on it for the last 2 years because of a lot of damage has happened with Queen Schaefer. A lot of cars and vehicles have ended up in people's front yards on Highway 24. So the ministry is following up with that. I believe we have a meeting with them in the fall and the residents to talk about that. But maybe if we wanted to update the footbridge together, the municipality and the region to make that an access point, because then they would go over the footbridge, they would turn right onto Beaky Road and hook up to 24A. So we could look at that, because that right now that's the route that a lot of aggregate trucks are taking. And also please discuss with the province on what plans they have with us. Maybe we can do it jointly.
Thank you. Councillor Hunick.
Thank you. Commissioner Spooner, could you elaborate more on the solution that was deferred till 2041, and why it was deferred to that seemingly random year, and what it would take to bring it back sooner? Is that a financial thing? Is that help me.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Councillor, thank you for the question. So the 2018 Integrated Mobility Plan looked at projects in the horizon of 2041. So we didn't just choose 2041, it was beyond 2041 that need presented itself. And the reason for that is what we look at is the capital plan over those numbers of years and the way to make the greatest impact. So we're going to do this again through the coming year and a half as we bring forward the Integrated Mobility Plan, and the projects again will be revisited. We'll have updated land use forecasts and we'll again look at the areas in the network of greatest need. So it was on the list, it was reviewed, it just didn't rise to the level that we would put it on the list for the 20 years up to 2041. So that may change with land use patterns in Cambridge, or it may come back to this table with still not recommended beyond 2050, but obviously that plan is for council's consideration.
But so I'm a little bit confused then, because regarding our concerns for people like Jamie, does that move it up the list at all?
Through you, Chair. So how do I say? We do this as an academic exercise. We do it with a model, and then we look at the outcome of the model. The human interest component, we can include, we'll obviously have indications of areas of identified, such as this report and delegation today. But that prioritization is an academic exercise. We do it that way just to make sure that we are consistent in how we approach capital projects.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. You've got a bit of a queue here, Doug, so well done. Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair James. I'm a visual learner, and I really don't know where to plot the delegation on this map. So my question is, should that delegation be the beneficiary of the diversion, or are they before it?
Through you, Chair, thank you for the question. So, again, I'm trying to make the triangle. Water, Ainslie, concession. And this residence is right in the middle of that triangle. So if you're looking at the map that's in the Appendix A, if you look, thank you.
Is there any way we can get that on the screen?
There you go. See where it says, relationship matters. Effectively, that little entrance off 24, there you go. You can now see the townhouse complex that's on your screen. That is the townhouse complex. So the trucks, again, are coming up Ainslie and then turning left on Concession and crossing the bridge there. So when we share those numbers, we share those numbers of roughly 400 trucks. They are traveling right in front of that townhouse complex.
Thank you for that. I'm heartened that it's a 60% diversion. My other question relates to what Councillor Craig is asking for, and he's asking for increased enforcement. Who would do that enforcement? How would that be accomplished?
Yeah, through you, Chair, as you can imagine, we have a great partnership through the road safety initiatives with WRPS, and so at various times we'll work with them on what we call blitzes or areas of attention. We've done that before in this segment, so we'll do that again. We'll make a request and we'll work with them on how to manage the resources. Obviously, we can't be there all the time, and so you do those as blitzes as kind of short-term implementations. We'll see a boost in compliance in those times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Rodriguez.
Yeah, thanks. Commissioner Smuter, could you maybe speak to your intentions to report back to council on this additional bridge? Like, in my mind, there are projects in Kitchener that were deferred past 2041 in the 2018 master plan, this one in Cambridge being one. To me, this is a conversation that happens as part of this whole master plan and not in response to one, and perhaps a second part to this is that part of Ainslie Street that is part of the truck route right now? Is that part of the reconstruction that's coming up in a few years' time?
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. So second question first, yes. And then on to the question about how we consider projects in context. It would be my and my team's preference to present it as part of the full package of projects for the Integrated Mobility Plan, because as we decide on investments across the region, they can be considered in context. What I would do if I need to be here before that in relation to that connection is I would bring back a lot of the information, which I think is part of the request of why it wasn't included in the pre-2041 and the 2018 Integrated Mobility Plan. So I have that information.
That's a pretty massive cost to be pulling outside of a master planning process. And so I think it'd be, let's look at the information of why the decisions are made in 2018, but it should be all part of that plan together.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Liggett.
Through you, Madam Chair. So when we talk about the enforcement, how is that partnership working with the region? Is it just residents who call and ask for the enforcement? Because I see trucks all the time downtown going through and that shouldn't be. So just wondering.
Through you, Chair. So not to necessarily speak on behalf of our partners at WRPS, but we have requested and they have delivered on blitzes in this area. Obviously, they're not there every day. And so that sustained effort is an interesting question. We could monitor with some of our tools we have, the MyoVision technology at intersections could continue to give us this information ongoing. But those actual blitzes are WRPS requested. We do that ourselves. We'll ask for it as the road authority. We'll ask for additional enforcement. We do that in a lot of areas for a lot of purposes. One of them was this and will going forward be this as well.
So what's the timing of those? Do you know?
I do not. I will make the request this week, and then we'll work together with WRPS to see how fast we can get out there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shantz, and then Councillor Craig.
Thank you. I'm going to be one of those counselors that keeps bringing back to priorities and sort of tag on to Councillor Rodriguez and say that we need to look at this in the total picture. And Elmira's patiently been waiting for bypass for at least 15 years, and I've been patiently supporting my other colleagues around the horseshoes. So I'd like it looked at in full context.
Chair, may I?
Yeah, go
Just
ahead.
a quick, thank you, Councillor. I think I've joked with my colleagues, we are in our truck diversion era. And so while we've implemented in Cambridge, we're tracking for an update shortly to Council on the air truck diversion in Northumberland, working with our partners in North Dumfries to come back with a complete solution on that, as well as you rightly pointed out on the Elmira bypass that we'll have back later this year. The challenge for our team in these becomes not necessarily implementing the diversion, it becomes where those trucks go after, and so that becomes a careful consideration for us. Obviously, as an economic driver, those trucks are moving goods, and we also want to make sure that they've got a safe passage, but we know some of the benefits of the diversions as well. So we'll continue that work. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Craig.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the comments around the table about looking at the whole region with regards to capital projects. No question about that. We should, but we don't do that at budget time. When do we do it? And I think we have to start discussing that more, because I travel through Elmira on my way to Drayton, and I certainly support Councillor Shantz with regards to the rough road that the middle of that community. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And there's no other questions about that. So I think we have to look at this in terms of the overall region. I talk about bridges because, like I said, for Cambridge only has 3. It is a river community that needs to have transport and access on both sides of the river. And it has a terrible problem with no defined bypass at this point. And so we have an issue that has to be dealt with. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't want to wait till next year. I want us to get started on this. This is an issue in Cambridge, and I'm saying publicly, and I've said it publicly here, the roads in Cambridge are under stress at all times pretty well, and we need to deal with it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So I think, Doug, there's some things to come back with. And I think I fully agree with the statement of, where Councillor Rodriguez was looking when we were like, let's look at this from the bigger picture here, because this is one of the benefits of a regional perspective. So I think there's something to be said about that. As well. So this report was for information. We will be moving on the agenda on with item 9. There's correspondence. There's the tracking list that has been provided. Councillor Rodriguez.
Just a quick comment on the tracking list, and I'm going to put Commissioner Spooner on the spot about the one item for Weber and Sterling. If you could maybe just update for the folks watching, please.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Thank you for the question, Councillor. So our team has continued to monitor the Weber and Sterling intersection. As I explained to Council before, we have a countermeasures program that addresses the top 10 areas of concern in the region in any given year. And it does not currently address those that are emerging, of which Weber and Sterling is absolutely emerging. And so when we talk about the municipal speed camera program and the associated road safety reserve, a reminder, all revenues collected above operating costs go into that road safety reserve. We'll look to grow that countermeasures program, but we're not going to wait. And so what we will do on Weber and Sterling is we will be back here in June in our next cycle with a report to Council suggesting some immediate signage improvements and the bylaw changes associated with that to immediately address the concern. And then when we have the opportunity for a capital project, we'll do a full design implementation. So again, we'll do the behavioral out of the gate, minimal enforcement, and then we'll get into the design at a future date. So hopeful that we can fix this one within the summer here. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Councillor Craig.
Not to belabor this, Madam Chair, but we're talking about the overall regional concerns we have. When can we sit down to discuss this? When can I expect that we can look at capital projects in terms of some of the issues that are emerging right now? Are we looking at budget time? What are we doing?
So, and this is, I guess, for a greater discussion amongst council and Chair Redmond as well, but budget time, when we're looking at capital projects, that is completely appropriate for budget and to come back during that time. Councillor Harris, you wanted to as well comment?
Yeah, just in regards to the tracking list, Commissioner Spooner, I know you and I have gone back and forth many times, as well as Councillor James, and I think we're very close to progress, but I think it's an opportunity to inform the public that there's lots of work behind the scenes on a critical piece of infrastructure that needs to be addressed from a road safety perspective. So I know you know what I'm talking about here, but I thought I'd take this opportunity to perhaps add it to the tracking list, and that's the lights exiting off of Trussler or Iron Needles Road so exiting the expressway coming from both directions onto Iron Needles or onto Trussler Road. Very, very dangerous intersection, not even an intersection, it's the ability to make a left-hand turn onto Trussler, coming either way. And I know you've got a solution. We've got our MTO partners, I think, on board. So we're this close, but I just thought maybe we'd use this opportunity to add it to the tracking list to inform the public that there's work happening, that we are addressing this safety or road safety issue. So hopefully, Mr. Spinner, you'd be okay with adding that, and then we can maybe give an update as we go and the progress that we're making to get that done.
Good call. You and I were both on some emails as well. The City of Kitchener councillors have been informed. Doug, do you just want to comment briefly? And this is the Trussler intersection off of 7-8.
Yeah, through you, Chair, another really good countermeasures example, right? So this is an identified community need. We've had a number of collisions in the segment. It's a complicated governance piece. The MTO manages all signals coming off of provincial highways. We've been successful in working with the MTO to fast track the installation of temporary signals. We'll be back in, I'm going to forget my year here, 2028, I believe, is the road reconstruction in that segment. So we'll do temporary signals and then full signals as part of the overall implementation. I'm hopeful, Councillor Harris, that we have those temp signals in place this summer. It's a very quick one, but when we put it on the tracking list, I will put Q3 and then I will push with our partners to get there. So hopeful with council support, and thank you for the ongoing support with that, but hopefully we can move that one quickly. It's an area of need.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, agreed. If I can just follow up on that too, we talk, we've all got calls and comments about, speed enforcement and the, what is it called? What is the ASE or what do they call it?
ASE program?
ASE, yes. But I mean, here could be a very worthy exercise of redeploying some of those funds to really improve our road safety here in our community. It's just an awful area, especially as the season changes and the time shifts, accidents at that area. It's one that we nip in the bud quickly. So if there's media covering it, you can talk to Mr. Spooner because he's got a good plan. And I know there's a lot of people out there that'll be very thankful for this
Absolutely,
change.
especially with the development of those residential areas close by. I've got Chair Redmond as well.
I just want to voice support for Councillor Harris when he's talking about connecting the dots. I would have to tell you, we've dealt with investment in roads, in bridges, and we've also talked about investment in environmental issues. We can't be all things to all people. We have to figure out how we do this balance. But talking about eliminating greenhouse gas emissions and maybe converting water heaters, there's a direct line to that. There is a direct line between speed cameras and investing in roads. And I think we need to continue to make that relationship so that in the media, when it's characterized as a cash grab, it is not. It is investment in safety and changing behavior of drivers. And we have to keep reminding the community of that and ourselves, because sometimes these decisions are hard to make.
Okay, seeing no further speakers, we've got correspondence from Jenna Versteeg, Emma Liu, and Omar Gibala. Other business. So we do have a notice of motion from Councillor McCabe. I need a seconder for that motion. Councillor Hunick. Okay, Councillor McCabe, your motion is on the floor. You speak to your motion.
Thanks very much.
well, we heard two delegates earlier today who are certainly far greater experts in this than I am. So I would just say that, we know that the region has done and continues to do a lot of work with the Smart on Salt program and the initiative. And I know that at the local municipalities, we're cognizant of it as well. But we've heard the stats and the numbers, and we know that there's much more that needs to do. So this is one part of the solution that has been brought forward that would support the small business, the very small business owners who do this work, the contractors who remove snow and ice. I do want to clarify that the piece about the liability, this is not removing liability. This is actually doing the opposite. And the contractors are saying that provided that they get the training and the accreditation that they need, that they will be able to get this work done properly, be able to reduce the amount of salt that they would use, and then be able to be held harmless, because the liability would then be placed on the property owner or the manager. So this isn't removing liability. This is actually, I guess you could say, reassigning it. Anyway, I think the reason behind this is pretty clear. We need to take some kind of action on this and support the Landscape Association, as well as the water watchers and the environmental groups who have been calling for this, and demonstrate to, this is one of the reasons I'm hopeful that if we demonstrate that we support this is that because we know the province is particularly preoccupied with red tape reduction. This is one way that reduces some of that red tape and actually can have a really positive outcome, again, for the small business owners as well as for water. So I'm just looking for your support. Thanks very much.
Okay, Chair Redmond? Oh, no, sorry, skipping the queue here. Councillor Hunick and then Chair Redmond.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I support this motion wholeheartedly. I actually think it's quite landmark, and I would hope that other municipalities across the province would follow suit. I just want to clarify, does the motion itself have a provision that it be sent across the province on 3M? Okay, I thought so. Just wanted to be sure.
Yes, it's widely to be distributed widely.
Great. Thanks.
Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair James. I know this is an issue that was raised at Roma when we did a delegation, and I'm just wondering if Commissioner Rose can talk about the focus that we had on it and any that is there from the province.
Yes, through the chair, to the chair. Thank you for the question. Very positive feedback from the province. We're actually meeting with them on May 22nd on our delegation about salt that was made at Roma earlier this year in January. So I'm happy to start the conversation with them, and we'll see how it goes from there. But they did indicate that a working group would be something that they're interested in forming when we were at the delegation. So we'll see where their head is at now. And I'm excited to meet with them.
Really timely motion, happy to support it, and something staff supports too.
Okay. Councillor Shantz.
Thank you. Certainly support reduction in salt. And I'm not sure it's embedded in this, but so putting more liability on the property owner is going to likely increase their insurance costs. So I think when we're asking the government to fund an expert stakeholder advisory committee to make sure that they include all stakeholders and look at the best way forward for that, because it's always the liability issue that trips us up. But definitely support the reduced salt trip, yes.
All right, okay, seeing no further speakers, I will have clerks pull up the motion for us. Okay, that is carried. Next is a notice of motion from Councillor Rodriguez. Councillor, you have moved it. I need a seconder for Councillor McCabe. Okay, Councillor Rodriguez, speak to your motion.
I promise we didn't coordinate on talking about snow today. I hope it's not a sign of a bad omen of weather ahead. No, really no better time to talk about the snow than when it's really warm outside. I want to thank staff for reviewing this and for their thoughts on this in preparing it. Really, it's aiming to start a conversation to look back on a particularly snowy year, which at times made it difficult for folks in our community to get around. The maintenance of our streets, our bus stops, our sidewalks is a real coordinated effort across the region, the area municipalities, and a network of contractors and staff who do great work throughout the year. Getting this right really makes us a four-season region where we can get where we need to go and aren't trapped at home when bad weather strikes, and we can make sure that important services like our transit network, including buses and trains, are able to run in a reasonable time during storms, and people are able to walk out of their house and even get to our buses and our trains. Just this last year, we had over 300 calls to the service center related to winter maintenance and snow clearing on our roads, and so certainly something that the community is looking at, and I'm sure we've all experienced some level of this. The intent of the motion really is just to take stock of what we do, how we do it, and how we can make better use of our existing resources. Obviously there's minimum standards that we need to meet, are obligated to meet, but we know where there might be efficiencies, there might be things we can look at, there might be things we can push on, and make sure that folks who are looking to get around can do that. So I don't know if staff have anything to add, but otherwise we're looking to have some type of report before the 2026 plan and budget process. Thanks.
Okay. They're not in the queue, so. If she wants to talk to her. Oh, Councillor McCabe, you seconded it. Do you want to speak to this as well? Okay, all right. I will call the question then. Clerks will put up the motion on the floor. And congratulations on your first motion, Councillor Rodriguez. And that carries. Okay, so we have any other business? Councillor McCabe, go ahead.
This will be very brief. I just wanted to give Councillor James a shout out for the recent, was it 2 Sundays ago? She held and organized a lunch and politics event in this, not an event, it was a dialogue and a really important and insightful one. I was able to attend, I think, about half of it, and in that half that I sat through, there were some really, and it was mostly with the youth. There was a youth panel that I got to hear, and then a panel of people who are elected in other municipalities, including Mississauga and Ingersoll, was it Ingersoll, Woodstock, and then Innisfil, right. Anyway, it was really insightful what they talked about, just what it took for them to run, what the kids were talking about in terms of like barriers that they see. So anyway, it was a fantastic event and opportunity to really learn for me. And I just wanted to say congratulations for, really, really demonstrating your leadership in this area and the work that you're doing to bring more diversity and other voices into elected politics. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And just a little note, there's a youth panelist that's in the audience right now, so she's engaged. Thank you. That was not expected, but thank you, Dorothy, and thanks for showing up. And Chair Redmond, I think you had some impact as well on those individuals there. Okay, any other business? Okay, seeing none. Our next meeting is June 10th, 2025. I would now call on a mover and a seconder to adjourn the Sustainability Infrastructure. Councillor Foxton and Councillor Erb. You'll be prompted in e-scribe. Michael, you need 5 minutes or so? Okay.
you.